Hi everybody, thanks for joining me today. I'm going to paint a, hopefully it turns out to be a very beautiful painting of a bald cypress. Now I've been practicing and I hope you will pick up your brush and practice with me. So I want to show you the colors that I've selected. However, feel free to choose some moody colors. That's what I suggest because this bold cypress that I'm going to paint is in the middle of a swamp. And I think that'll be interesting. There's a story behind it, and it does coincide with our celebration of America's 250th birthday. And if you're wondering why, stay tuned. I think the only recommendation that I have outside of the moody colors is to use rough paper or cold press because the technique we're going to use to get the mossy effect on the cypress trees in the swamp is it has a better effect when you have paper that grabs the pigment off your brush and has a little bit of tooth to it. So if you can see, I don't know if you can see on this, there you go, with the light you can see how it has some texture to the paper. Let me see if I can open up this cold press. Hang on 2 seconds as you look at my very messy desk. This is a painter's desk, so this one is hot press. It is extremely smooth and ideal for good washes like a sunset because everything just goes so smoothly. But then if you're doing, you know, the dry brush effect across for the ocean waves, then it not so much, but it does work. Okay, I'm going to take my large round 12, so whatever mop brush, you can use a flat wash, whatever your largest one is, to drag that water, clean water, across your page. One of the things that I do is I don't go up with my brush because I want that point to stay nice and pointy. So I'll come down, I'll drag that water down, or I'll come this way and kind of even that out so it's not just flooded in pools of water. I don't want puddles, I just want a nice sheen. We do also want to stay wet for a while because this is going to be a swamp. You know, it can be, if you're not familiar with America, this could be, the swamps are in the south mostly, I think only. Okay, not sure about that part. But I do know they're in Georgia. The Okefenokee is a very famous swamp, and I think that actually extends to Florida. Florida is notorious for alligators, so they have swamps, we know this. Also Louisiana, and I would imagine a little bit of Mississippi as well. So they're everywhere there's water in lower levels. So we're going to make this as swampy as we can, because the cypress, while they will grow on dry land, and I do have video of a cypress in my local town that my daughter and I found, I'll show you what they look like up close. They can live in water. So there you go. And they're stunning, just stunning. Okay, so I have it wet. Ideally, I'll let this sit for a minute, but because I'm trying to make this quick and to show you that watercolor does not have to be long and drawn out, it can be as just a short, quick practice if you want to do one in the morning. Right now, I am mixing my indigo, which is my darkest of blues, and I love the look of indigo. And then I'm going to just add water to that and mute it down a little bit until I'm eyeballing this, everyone. I'm just, where do I want this to go? Do I want it that dark? Not really. So I'm going to add a little bit more water and just keep going until I'm not adding more water, because then eventually this will just buckle and it won't look right. And then once it settles, that's the look I want. That's what I'm going for. Because I also want to leave room for my tree. So I'm going to lift a little bit around here, because that's about where the large cypress is going to go. So I'm washing off my brush. Sorry about all the clinks. It's not a glass of beverage, that is. Kidding. Okay. Moving on. I'm going to keep bringing it down, nice and smooth. And then I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna with, I did not have in the palette mix a burnt umber, but I'm going to add that. So if you have burnt umber, you can add that as well. And I think there's some green in there. If you can see it, I see it. So this is our murky swamp water. Isn't that just lovely? I've never been to a swamp, and I never want to go to a swamp, ever. Okay, let's talk about this tree. So the bald cypress that I selected was one of the many liberty trees in the United States, well, in the colonies in the early 1700s, early to mid. And the story goes, legend has it, actually it's not legend, there are plaques to prove it. You ever walk around town and all of a sudden there's a plaque in a weird spot? You're like, what is that plaque there for? There's a reason. Now you'll notice that I came back in and I added paint where I shouldn't have. That paint had too much water and it dispersed the beautiful look that I had going there. So I'm just going to come back in and we're just going to fix that. So while I'm explaining why we're painting this cypress. So legend has it that in the around 1750-ish, the British government, and I'm sorry to all my British friends out there, this is ancestors. We didn't do this. We were getting tired of the constant taxes, right? That's where this all started. And the king was initiating a Stamp Act. You may remember that from your history books. The Stamp Act allowed the king to tax documents. He was taxing contracts. He was taxing, I read somewhere he was taxing playing cards and just everything. And so you can imagine, we were getting a little bit miffed. Nobody wants to be overtaxed. Nobody, not even now. So this was prior to the Boston Tea Party, by the way. This was the first act of rebellion in the colonies. So they would meet at the Liberty Tree. At the time, it was just an old elm. It was big, it was huge, it was a landmark. Everybody knew about the old elm. Go to the elm down the street. They didn't have a lot of main places to meet, and that was where they would meet. Because remember, the British soldiers were still around town, so they had to be clandestine about it. So they go and meet at this old elm tree periodically to plan their rebellion. And that's where it starts. Years and years and years of fighting and sending letters and fighting and sending letters and fighting. And we know what happens after that. And word gets around all over the colonies, and everybody else comes up with their own Liberty Tree. and their place to meet and plan their own little rebellion in their neck of the woods, literally. And sure enough, I gotta focus on this. Okay, so let me come back to the painting because I love stories. I do. I'm gonna come in here and just kind of do a shoreline back here because I'm kind of happy with the way this looks. And it's still very, very, very wet. And I want everything to stay misty, so I don't want to lose that. And if I keep telling you a story, I will. So we're just coming across about whenever your focal point in the distance, you don't want it to be smack in the middle. You want it to be like a third down or a third up. Choose one or the other. So I'm just going down here because that cypress is gonna, I think I'll center him here. His trunk will be here. I don't know why he's a he. Trunk will be here, and I'm gonna have his branches hang over here, and we're gonna have moss, Spanish moss, just hanging. It's gonna be beautiful. And I'm also going to place a few cypress off into the distance, the misty distance. So let's add a little bit of just a few trees back there. I'm using Pearline Green with some burnt sienna, and I'm just, same brush, I'm still using my, this is a Princeton Aqua Elite round 12. I love it because the point is amazing, and it's a workhorse, and it does everything, along with capturing my dog's hair. All right, this is pretty good. I'm gonna mute that down just a bit. Oop, that was weak. And it does hold a lot of water. That is one thing about these Aqua Elites. They hold a lot of water, so you do have to be careful when you're trying to come back in and add things. You just want to touch. If I were to use the belly of it, it would just do the oops I did up there, which you see when I came back over with another layer of the wash, it fixed it. So, all right, so that'll kind of fade out into the distance. It'll look like, hopefully, I'm going to dry my brush really quick and feather this out. It'll look like little trees way off into the swamp or on land. Okay, so let's do a little, I'm going to get a smaller brush. I'm getting my round 8. It does not have to be a Princeton. It does not have to be Aqua Elite. It's whatever you've been using, whatever works for you. I started off with Princeton, what was it? Princeton Velvet Touch. I liked the way it felt. The Velvet Touch has a velvety handle. Wonder how they got that name. And that works for me because if you've watched my videos before, my hands shake a little bit, and it helps me to keep it steadier. And this has the same texture. So here is a Velvet Touch. It's very has a grip to it, but nothing, it can still slide in my hand. Same with the Aqua Elite. Whereas here's a Heritage, it's very shiny, like wood. So this one I only use as a liner. So that's the differences if you were ever wondering. Okay, little brush lesson up there. All right, so that got kind of wonky. Let's go ahead and add just some structure there. So it looks like something. Okay, so all of the colonies are rebelling. Word's getting around. I have no idea how they communicated back then. I forget what my history books told me, but it was not the internet or a telephone. I know that much. So they start having meetings, and they have to be sneaky about it. They can't just do it out in the open. They can't go to town halls. So they are doing the best that they can to make this happen. And most of the time they're meeting at these large trees because that is where everybody knows to go. Do you know where the old elm tree is? Yes, I do. I see it every day when I drive to the store or to the farm. And that's where they ended up calling the Liberty trees and all of these different colonies. So South Carolina has a Liberty elm, and they were not all the same type trees, which I thought was amazing. So South Carolina has an elm. Maryland has 2 trees, which is fine because it's a big state and they couldn't all get together in the same location, I suppose. Maryland had a tulip poplar. That is one of my favorite trees. The leaves are the size of a head. I'm not exaggerating. When my second daughter graduated and we were taking her senior pictures. Okay, I'm going to focus on this. Hope this is not dry. It's still wet. This is great. The cypress has a very large root structure that goes into the water. So we're going to do that, and then I'm just going to do some branches. That's great. I had her pick up a tulip poplar leaf, and it literally covered her entire face. That's hilarious, but we love the picture. It turned out really good. Here is the large tree that we're just going to plop right here in the middle of the swamp. Now, that was a habit to make the root structure. It's in water, so we don't have to do that. I will make a reflection for it. But we're going to make the trunk, and then this is where I want to come out and just make some just wispy branches, because the moss is going to hang all over that. There are some that just are very symmetrical, but they are very heavy on the top. They're beautiful trees. All right. Again, using a good brush with a fine point is helpful because I can make a thicker branch by pressing down a little harder, but I can also make these thinner branches by using the tip. So I don't have to switch, and I don't have to buy, most importantly, multiple brushes because my budget does not allow that. So while I'm not saying you should buy this brush, I'm just saying why I did. It was a few dollars more than maybe a Michaels brand. That looks like a very scary tree. It's not meant to be. It'll be beautiful after we're done, I promise. I'm going to put some shadow, darker pigment, just added some more indigo, some burnt umber, give it some detail in here. Okay. All right, I'm going to work on the water below. And for this, I'm going to take some of that Mayan Blue Genuine. This is it's a granulated color, but it's just beautiful for water. We're going to see how this looks. I might have to mix a little bit of the burnt umber mix we have going on, because this mist we have going on right now, I love that. See, I don't like that. that looks like ocean water. It's fine, but I'm not looking for that here. Here I'm looking for mist. So we have to soften that. And if you want to do that, that's fine too. I love painting so much because like it's what you want to do, right? If you want this, like this is fine. I do like that it's kind of sparkling here a little bit where some of the light is shining through on the swamp, because that's probably more realistic to me anyway. But you don't have to be realistic. You can be as fun as you want it to be. Okay. I think that's a little bit better. And then I'll come in and do a reflection of all of this once I get it done. But since I'm not sure what we're going to do yet on that, let me show you what the moss is going to look like. I'm going to use Pearling Green. There's a bird outside screaming, if you guys can hear that. The birds are nesting again. They've all been very moody lately. I don't know. Okay, so this is all I'm doing is I'm just taking a dry brush and tapping it off to kind of get most of the wet off. For this one, I'm even gonna go, my hand's shaky. This is probably not gonna work out, but we're just gonna go with it. Just kind of I think this one's too far away, and I want to soften that a little bit. Let's just do this. Yeah, let's make that lighter. That's another thing about painting. You can switch it up as you go. So if it didn't have moss, these trees just have branches that kind of do this. It's the craziest thing. They're beautiful. They're just stunning. So imagine the Revolutionary era. These guys are just trying to make their own way and figure out how this country is going to work, if it can work. They're sneaking off to these places to meet, talk about the plan. And their location is to meet are these beautiful, beautiful trees. And each tree now has its place in history, in America's history, with a plaque somewhere. And if the tree's not there, the plaque is. So, for instance, in Boston, there is a plaque where the tree was cut down in 1776 during the war. They're not exactly sure who cut it down because we were evacuated from Boston and it was gone when we came back. So they erected a plaque in its place. And I think another tree was planted close by. I'm not sure. But the one in Florida, which is a, wait for it, Lady Liberty. And this one is in honor of Lady Liberty. It is a bald cypress. But the one in Florida is that the best guesstimate that they have. She is 2,000 years old. Let me say that again. She's 2,000 years old. Now, why is she a she? Didn't I just call the other trees a he? I don't know. 2,000 years old. Isn't that amazing? Okay, I have loaded my brush with Pearling Green, and I am really afraid that I just talked too much. So I'm gonna, yeah, it's dry. Yep. All right, let's do this. Now, in a perfect world where I'm not talking, this would have been done. So here's what I'm gonna do. I don't recommend you do this because you would have already had this done. Swish, clean water, swish. But this is something that you can, not that one because we just got that wet, and swish. And that's it. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Because if we touch that, it'll disturb the pigment underneath. We're going to let it sit for 2 seconds, and then I'm going to paint, I promise. So I've got this loaded with Caroline Green, ready to go. I'm not going to talk anymore about Lady Liberty, I promise, except that she was old, and this is in honor of her. But what an amazing tree. That tree is still standing, and there's one next to it that they think is older than her. That, 2000, can you imagine the history and the secrets that were told around that tree? 2,000 years old. Okay, there's a little bit of a puddle here. I don't want puddling. I'm just checking on the light. Okay, here we go. I do not see, hold on, because that is going to be, okay, ready? Here we go. Loaded brush, Caroline Green, adding a little bit of burnt umber and burnt sienna. On the side. Look at that. Oh yes. So I'm putting the body of the brush down and I'm kind of swooping out like that. I'm thinking Spanish moss. She's close to us, so I don't mind if it goes over that one. She. Why is it a she? That's so weird. I am going to come in after this starts to dry with a darker pigment. Sorry about my hand, guys. I can't do it left-handed. That is my one. I'm not ambidextrous. I can't do it. And just, oh, here, I can do it this way. Oh. Just put it wherever you think it would look good, right? And then we'll come in a little bit later. Ooh, that was really dark. With some more. And she still looks swampy. Look at her. Oh, she's gorgeous. Love, love, love this. All right. I don't want to overdo it. Because when I do, I always get mad at myself. Because she's in the swamp, right? She's sitting in water. So let's make her sit in water. Okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt umber mix I have and mix it with a little bit of the indigo. And so I'm just gonna, how am I gonna do this? Well, I think what I want to do is mix, depending on the angle of the, hang on, let's do this. Over when you're doing your reflection, I want a wet brush and I want to just kind of mimic. You want to make sure you're thinking of, this is a swamp, the water is still, but it does move because there are things in it, like alligators and lots of frogs and things. Oops. Okay, we're going to fix that. And just bring that pigment over in here. So think of wavy, right? That is good. I'm going to bring a little bit more. Let's see, we'll do, ooh, you know what I need to do. Okay. So then we very light, pick up some light wash of that same green and just kind of go this way. Water that down. It's just the reflection. I'm not going to get very detailed. I'm going to soften that. Give it a wiggle. And I think that is that. Because any more would make it not swampy. Give this guy a reflection. It doesn't have to be too busy. There we go. I think that's it. No, I did say we're going to put some more perylene green, heavier, like a layered effect of the leaves. You could put some Spanish moss colors, just like that. I'll show you how to do that. If you've never seen Spanish moss, oh boy, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. This is not very, now ideally I would have waited until this dried. I encourage you to wait, but I did want to give you a short video. You see that's just soaking in, but that's okay. I still like the look. I do like that. Just give it some depth. That's all I'm looking for. It doesn't have to be perfect. These guys over here, give those just in that. Okay, I am happy with that. So Spanish moss, it is, I'm not sure if I can explain that color. It is, I'm using Naples Yellow by Core, Q-O-R. This is a highly, it's made with honey, so it's a different binding agent, so it spreads a lot. So I'm going to just touch so very gently in some areas where it might be. I might put some, no, that is very strong. So we're going to come in here and take some off. I think I need to water that down. Just get, just to show and not to mix it either. That's about the color. And it's stringy. It's like piles of stringy stuff. It's fascinating. People use it in their flower pots, decoration. It's a fungus actually, and it grows on these trees. It's a aerial plant. It's some of the most fascinating plants that I've seen, and it grows all over the South and just hangs off these trees. And I think I'm going to leave it like that. I'm happy with that. Okay. There you go. Simple, swampy picture, misty. Don't overdo it. Make sure it stays wet. You can see over here, it looks like it's raining. That's what we'll call that. But what happened is it was dry. This was wet. It soaked in and kind of blended out where the water was. This was dry. It didn't have any place to go, so the pigment just stayed there. It's fine. It'll be okay, but if you're looking for that swampy, misty effect, you'll want to make sure that your paper's always wet. Don't talk like I did and just get busy and paint. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and enjoyed this little history lesson from my nation, and learned a little bit more about the bald cypress. I did, so, and I hope you enjoyed painting. You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.